Welcome to All Business, No Boundaries, a collection of supply chain stories by DHL Supply Chain, the North American leader in contract logistics. I'm your host, Will Haywood. This is a place for in-depth discussions on the supply chain challenges keeping you up at night. We're breaking beyond the boundaries that are limiting your supply chain. Today's episode is the transformation of Kenvue, adapting supply chains for modern challenges. Our guests are Rodney Leonard, Vice President, U.S. Deliver Operations, Kenvue, Darlene Krysiak, Director, North American Transportation Operations, Kenvue, and James Hoskins, Vice President, Operations, Life Sciences and Healthcare for DHL Supply Chain. Let's dive in. Okay, welcome. It's great to have all three of you with us. Thanks a lot for taking the time to come onto the podcast today. I will start off as we always do. I'll ask you each to introduce yourselves. So if you could tell us your name, your title, and who you work for, and how long you've been there. Let's start with you, Rodney.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Rodney Leonard. I am the Vice President of U.S. Deliver Operations at a company called Kenvue, and I've been there for seven years.
Okay. Darlene?
Hi, Darlene Krysiak. I am also with Kenvue, reporting into Rodney's team. I am the Director of North America Transportation and Trade Compliance, and I have been with Kenvue just about 3 years now.
Okay, terrific. And lastly, James.
Yeah, hello, James Hoskins, DHL VP of Operations in NORAM, Life Sciences Healthcare Division. I've been with the company about 28 years, 13 of which has been with the Kenvue sponsorship.
Okay, terrific. Well, we were talking before we started recording. This has been a long time in coming. I think we started planning this well over a year ago, so we should have plenty to talk about today. I want to start with you, Rodney. Just some sort of backdrop on Kenvue. It may not be as familiar of a company name in the public sphere. Talk about what the company is, kind of how it came to be. And then we're going to dive into kind of that story once you lay the groundwork for us.
So for those who don't know, Kenvue is a recent spinoff of Johnson & Johnson. We were part of their consumer health division in the Johnson & Johnson segmentation business. We spun off about a year ago officially, and we basically are the world's largest pure play consumer health company. So we have some very iconic brands that's been around for 135 years. Things like Band-Aid, Aveeno, Lubriderm, Tylenol, Zyrtec, a lot of homegrown brands that we've really built up over the years. We touch about 1.2 billion consumers globally every day. So very proud of the brands that we offer to our consumers. We have three big segments, I would say, in terms of how we manage the business. We've got one, which is about self-care, right? All of the self-care products, whether it's Tylenol, whether it's Zyrtec, over-the-counter self-care. And then we have a huge skin health portfolio as well. So all of the products I talked about earlier, Neutrogena, Aveeno, Lubriderm, a lot of the skin health products that we carry. And then finally, we have a what we would call an essential health division. So a lot of the Band-Aid, for example, as an essential health, as well as Listerine, feminine oral care, those types of things. So we really focus on the everyday care aspect of our consumers.
Okay, good. So you said you're global. You touch a lot of consumers every day. Approximately, what's the revenue size of the business?
So in 2024, our total revenue was $15.5 billion.
Okay. I want to ask you about the process of spinning out of a big corporate entity like J&J. Maybe just the timeline on that, what the thinking process was by J&J and your management team. What was that like?
So the thinking was we could better invest in our brands if we were a separate company from a pharmaceutical giant like J&J. So as you might imagine, it took about 18 months to separate, to go through all of the legal entity name changes, all of the service agreements to make sure we properly transition away from the company. And I would tell you the biggest thing is the evolution in thinking from a traditional life science company to more of a consumer health company. We are really trying to get our folks to think more about the consumer from a marketing perspective, from a social media perspective, from a technology and AI perspective. So it's really been challenging from the standpoint of getting people to think differently, but it's also been exciting, right? We do a lot of benchmarking. There's a lot of things we can do to really understand what does a consumer health minded company look like. So we really focus on things like social media. That was not a big thing at J&J at the time. So now we've got to start thinking about marketing a lot more than we had before. So that's been our biggest focus, is how do we stand up those disciplines as we move forward as Kenvue versus Johnson & Johnson.
Okay, so James, thinking about the DHL relationship, you mentioned it's been long-term with J&J. How did you all find out about the Kenvue idea, and what kinds of things did your team need to do to help make that happen?
Well, we do have a 30 plus relationship with J&J and then now Kenvue too. So it's always been a little bit separate, and we've kind of faced these with other clients too. They've broken away the consumer health too, right? And I have a consumer health and consumer background. So for me, this kind of was a natural thing, and we just worked together. We're working with a smaller team now, but we seem to get a whole lot more done than we were before with Rodney's team and Chris and Darlene. They've been great, right? So we've been kind of hand in hand working together, and it's been from a vendor where we used to be to more of a strategic partnership. This journey has been phenomenal, right? So it's always together. It's always looking forward in what we can do. So I think we get a lot more done with a smaller team, and we've been able to show that with the network that we set up.
Yeah, that learning mindset of we're both at the table together. I think there's been some great examples of picking each other's brains and really challenging each other, the way to think about things. I remember James, the conversation we had about just what does it mean to be a consumer health company versus life sciences, right? In terms of the day-to-day ways of working. So it's really been good from the standpoint of we're learning as we go, and we can help, and DHL can help us understand how we need to be thinking about things.
Yes, and I think that they've also helped us pivot quickly when we've needed to change things. We did some systems changes on our inbound side, and they helped us to get that done very quickly in comparison to what it would have been taken in the past.
So when you say systems changes on the inbound side, just for folks who aren't in the supply chain space, what does that mean, practically speaking?
So in that situation, it was our transportation management system on the inbound side. So working with our vendors, working with our warehouses, our manufacturing sites to switch systems over quickly, seamlessly, with no disruption to business, which is what they really helped us do to not see any blip in a business way at all.
James, you mentioned you've seen this happen with a couple other clients who you've worked with. Wonder your thoughts on just why do you think this trend is out there in the industry, and what do you think some of the things that Rodney talked about in terms of being a life sciences company versus being a consumer health company, what are the kind of nuances between those?
Well, within the life sciences network, right, a lot of this, the quality and the oversight is through the manufacturing company, right? And so that is really heavy, very thick. And when you turn into kind of a consumer health company, you can now focus on supply chain, right? Our speed to market and really just our cost reduction, which I believe those are the two big things that we've been focusing all year, which is just increase speed and reduce cost, right? So there's a lot of things that we just did together. We had overlap. They did it on top of us, right? And so now that we build up kind of our daily operational execution and build up that trust, now we've divided and conquered, right? It's like, you guys take this piece, we're not both going to do it, right? So as we've kind of developed this relationship and this trust, we've kind of divided and conquered, and that's really helped. We don't have as much oversight, but it's still everything's covered, and we still have contingency everywhere we need to be. So it's really just taking advantage of all the services that DHL has and releasing Kenvue's time to go on to like planning and bigger, better things.
Good. Rodney, do you have anything to add there?
Absolutely. I think James said it perfectly. The biggest thing for us is just that speed to market, that supply chain efficiency. There was a lot of redundancies in the life sciences or pharmaceutical, as you might imagine, right? Pharmaceutical drugs, et cetera. But in the consumer health, it's much more about service to the customer, speed to market, efficiency. So all those things DHL brought to the conversation to really help us think about things differently. So that's the biggest muscle that we've got to build as Kenvue that quite frankly we've never had to think about, right? You think about a lot of patents, a lot of things with pharmaceuticals. You've got a 7-year period of time where you can control the supply chain, but in the consumer health business, the competitive advantage is speed to market and supply chain efficiency.
And our overall flexibility too. Our flexibility is key, right? So we've had to help you guys and help us adapt to the ever-changing business model, right? Whether you have more space or less space, or we're going to do e-com or not e-com, and some of the other services we offer. So we've been able to adapt to that as well, and keep costs down by doing multi-client and some other things.
One of the great things about DHL is just the total realm of offerings that they do have. So they've been able to come to us with things we can use, we can't use, but always coming to us with new ideas and trying to find ways to help us streamline.
So are you selling principally through retail stores, or do you have other channels that either exist or have grown or shrunk since you've moved from into the new company?
We focus primarily on the brick and mortar customers. So when you guys walk into a Walmart or Target or Walgreens, we want to make sure our products is there where our consumers. But I will tell you that our e-com space is continuing to grow as well. As James said earlier, how do we pivot? How do we adjust to what we're seeing in the market? As you guys know, and as you guys probably do when you're shopping, right? I remember being in the store, but I'm also online, right? Looking like comparing prices. So we are beginning to have to stand up that whole connected commerce, e-commerce space, whether it's direct to consumer, whether it's through Amazon. So we have a dual approach to how we reach our consumers, both the brick and mortar, but also the e-com space as well, which is really growing for us.
Yeah, and are you seeing that more broadly, James, across the consumer health sector?
Yeah, we are, and Rodney had come up with a kind of a one roof type thing, right? To utilize the space we have, try to get as many services under one roof, right? So whether that's transportation, or whether it's value added services or packaging, we do quite a bit of different things under that one roof to really, again, for speed, right? So then now there's less time to create something or send something out or to redo something or repack. So a lot of this we're seeing is the one roof, and Kenvue has set up their network just fabulously with some extra space to do some things and some grow. But I know, Rodney, we talk about the one roof and the minimal vendors, right? Reducing vendors overall.
And that's that supply chain efficiency we were talking about, right? The goal is for all the product to come into one DHL warehouse from our manufacturing sites, all post manufacturing improvements or late stage customization, whatever you want to call it. All those things happen within our DHL DCs, then it goes straight to the customer and or the consumer. So whether we're shipping to a Walmart or we're shipping to an actual consumer, we can all do it from that DHL warehouse. That is the key to supply chain efficiency.
Yeah, and to answer your question, well, that's the trend we're seeing, except Kenvue seems to be very ahead of the curve on this one.
Terrific. Rodney, the term late stage customization, what does that mean?
So that basically means we bring product into our DCs in a case. Let's say 14 bottles of Listerine is in a case. We may have customers who say, well, you know what? I want it in a 2-pack. I want it in a 3-pack. So after the DC receives it in that case, we have the ability to customize that packaging or that offering to our customers as they need it. So whether it's putting a bundle pack, whether it's putting a handle on it, whether it's putting it for shipping on container capabilities, it's basically being able to customize that case to whatever the customer needs.
Yeah, in DHL's terms, it's secondary packaging or value-added services. Those are some of the terms that we use as well.
So I may be showing my age, but when I think social media, I don't think Listerine and Tylenol. How is that social media featuring more into your business, and why?
So for us, it's really about where our consumers are influenced. I think to your point, Will, when you and I were growing up, we saw commercials. That was it, right? You saw commercials. Now you've got Jenny on the block who's online and she's talking about this Neutrogena cream is to die for. And we see a huge spike in that. So one of the things we've had to learn is social media marketing is here to stay. It's powerful. It's a new way to reach people real time, different demographics, different genres, however you want to look at it. So for us, it's about how do we lean into that. At J&J, we did none of that, right? We were very regulated, health science company, life science company. But now we've got to think about how do we reach the consumers and who do they listen to, right? Not only do they listen to healthcare professionals, but they also listen to influencers. So one of the things we've had to really pivot and say, we want to be able to get our products to our consumers wherever they are and wherever they shop. So that's how we are leaning into this whole social media. And I won't even call it a craze because it's here to stay. I mean, This is how people consume their information.
Right. So can you buy some of your products right off some of those platforms?
You can. We're standing up those capabilities as well. That's part of that value-added services that James was talking about. If we see a spike, for example, in our sunscreen business, we had an example where there was a big concert, Coachella, right? And in the Southwest, we saw there was going to be a huge spike in sunscreen needs. So we were able to see that predictively and get product to that region of the country. But it's staying tuned to what's happening in the social media space, which is giving us that ability to really react quickly and even, quite frankly, in a lot of cases, kind of be more predictive.
And I think even on the commercial side on television, you're starting to see a lot more Neutrogena, Aveeno, different commercials that you haven't seen before with different celebrities and influencers. So it's definitely a big turn from the marketing of Johnson & Johnson.
Inside the walls of Kenvue, how do you have connectivity between the marketing folks and then supply chain? I mean, I would imagine it's different than how it was at J&J, and I just wonder how.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth and discussions on what's happening, planning ahead of time. We're also using AI and things like that to kind of help us figure out where we need to have things, like Rodney said, with Coachella, things like that are coming up, and knowing where to put items for store shelves, or actually taking things to those events, which we do quite often, to make them available. But it's a lot of collaboration happening. It's a lot of planning that goes into it to know what's coming. And it's also watching those trends that we're seeing coming in on those purchases and from those influencers.
And I think the best example is we use the term end to end. I know James and Darlene, when we say end to end, we think about supply chain, right? Plan, make, source, deliver. But when we talk about end-to-end at Kenvue, we're talking about R&D, we're talking about marketing, we're talking about our sales team, we're talking about our finance team. So we're taking a much more true end-to-end consumer experience approach to what's working, what's not working, where do we need to double down on, and so forth. So that term end-to-end has really been a huge unlock for us.
And Rodney's team's done a heck of a job of involving us in the upstream, right? So we're not just waiting at the door for product to arrive and then we take care of it from there, but we've been involved in a lot of different workshops and things like that upstream. We've done a lot of events where we put everybody all in, so we meet the upstream people and we work with them and we kind of get some operational empathy, right? What is your concern and how we can help you, and back and forth. So Kenvue being a little bit smaller now has enabled us to really work all the way through the end to end.
When you think about benchmarks that you look at as a supplier and talk to your various clients about, what are the key ones that you're focused on for Kenvue and maybe elsewhere? And then I'd ask the same question of Darlene and Rodney. Maybe the same list, I hope it is, but it may be a little bit different.
I would say the one biggest thing that I think our team does just an excellent job with doing together is the accelerated innovation outlook. Rodney came to us and said, we got to do things faster. We got to sign up for stuff. We've got to try, right? So we have the biggest innovation kind of pipeline out of any one of the customers. We've got Dextery, which helps, on time and full because it counts, it's automatic cycle counter. We've got Locust for the ecom. We've got Fox Robotics, autonomous vehicles putting things away. We've got Boston Dynamics unloading, containers for us. We've got Cargo, which looks at quality on the way out. We're using Warehouse Director. We have self, driver check-in that helps, everybody on the transportation side. The list just goes on. And we've been very open, and we go to these, events together and we look at stuff together, and we're not afraid to get in on the ground floor and try something and help develop that product for these companies, knowing that we're going to need it down the line. And so Rodney's team and Darlene have been extremely open to trying all these new things. And, we probably look through 100 and maybe do 10 or 15, but we have the biggest innovation kind of collective network that we're trying currently with this customer over all other customers.
And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And that's okay, because that's how we're learning together on what is going to make us both successful. So that's why we're always coming to the team asking, what can we get in on? What are you looking at? What can we beta test for you? Things like that. So definitely a collaboration.
So Rodney, what I wanted to ask you about, you've had a long career in supply chain. Thinking about the subject of innovation in supply chain, I wonder what you're seeing now, sort of over the last 5-ish years, compared to days before then, and how that affects your thinking about how you run your business and how you work with suppliers.
So Darlene knows one of my big focus areas is around this whole AI bot area. We really have to leverage technology more than we have been in the past. We tell our team all the time that 10% of the jobs may go away, but 100% of the jobs will be impacted or will change. So really thinking about how do we use technology to drive a lot of the routine, what I call commodity tasks. How do we make sure our folks have a new skill set? I want my people to be more of problem solvers, relationship builders versus analytics people. So I think that's the biggest thing that we've got to embrace as when we think about supply chain, not just the moving of trucks and cases, but the technology that's doing it for us.
How is your team responding to that challenge?
So we're having fun with it. We're doing awards. We're doing best automation. We've got some great examples where we use AI bots to manage our deductions process. We've got AI bots that's managing a lot of our transactional processes. So the team is really embracing it. We've got a very diverse team. A lot of new college graduates who live this stuff every day. And then we've got folks like me who still trying to figure out how to put Chat GPT on my phone. So it's all over the place right now, but we see it as a must versus a option.
Darlene, is that your experience as well?
Yeah, absolutely. On the transportation side, we have definitely embraced AI and are finding every way we possibly can to incorporate it into the day-to-day based business tasks so we can free people up to strategize more, to build those relationships. There's so many that have gotten away from just the one-on-one phone calls and everything's been through emails because they're so busy. So now it kind of frees up to build those relationships with our vendors as well. So it's definitely been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So James, obviously a long-term partnership with Kenvue. What's coming up next in the relationship?
Well, I think we've got a good framework and a good map, right? So in 2024, I think together we saved over 11 million in CI. We're on track to save another 6 million in 2025, right? And we want to repeat that again next year. So I think, again, making sure we continue to, reduce costs and deliver, right, and increase that speed. I know we've got a lot of things coming down the pipe that we want to try to help, Kenvue with added growth. We still want to get a lot of things underneath one roof as well. So there's quite a bit coming down. And then we also just want to keep utilizing that innovation team. I mean, we have Karen DeLuca, who's done a great job with us and working with their team and kind of filtering down to, hey, what can we put into this warehouse that's going to, in the future help create a little bit more operational capacity, right? So I know we've got quite a bit to do, but, the short-term model is definitely, reduce costs and increase that flexibility. Right. So in the future, we don't know what they hold. We don't know what product launches, what acquisitions, but we're ready for it. And we've also got Inmar, right? So we want to start looking at all that data and find ways to reduce damage, and look at trends. So there's quite a bit that we're kind of got in there. Probably too much, right? We could probably talk for another hour just on the stuff that we want to do.
Yeah. So Inmar, you're referring to the return solution.
Yeah, and they have tons of data that says this is how things get damaged. This is where it's getting damaged. We want to start utilizing that. We also want to put that under one roof as well, right? So definitely an area that we need to explore farther.
Rodney, Darlene, what's exciting for you about the future?
So for me, it's about how do we continue to become top tier in our industry. I say all the time to my team, service, cost, and cash, right? That's what's important in this new world. So how do we do that while we innovate, while we partner, while we look for those new opportunities? So for me, it's about, we've gotten off to a great start. We are viewed as a very reliable function within our organization. We had our president say that he worries about a lot of things, but he doesn't worry about our deliver operation, because we've really stood up a very reliable service to the company that delivers on the business. So service, cost and cash is really how we're going to move forward and how we're going to be successful. So I'm excited about how we look at all those areas. James mentioned a couple of those already, right? How do we balance the cost aspect while making sure service is at a premium? So that's the trick, right? That's the Rubik's Cube that we're trying to figure out.
I was just going to say, definitely continuing down the road with DHL and having them bring new opportunities to us. They've just brought a couple over the past few weeks that we're looking at. So I'm excited about what we might see going forward with the team.
Well, that's terrific. I appreciate you guys going into such depth about all the exciting things that are happening in the relationship. Would love to have you back in a year, and if past is any pattern, it'll take us more than that to.
Should we start now?
Yeah, we'll start the planning now. But no, really appreciate it. I know James and team have a ton of respect for you as a business and you as a customer of DHL. It rings true in this podcast for sure. So thank you again for your time. Look forward to seeing you both again soon. And best of luck through the rest of the year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate us and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also re-listen to our entire library of episodes on our website, dhl.com/ABNB podcast. See you next time.